too struggled heavily with being able to grow my hair long, which is why it became such an obsession for me to figure out what are the best ways to grow our hair. Hey guys, it's Seun, Okimi, and welcome back to my channel. So today we'll be talking all about growth. I was able to grow my relaxed hair down to my waist. I recently just chopped it all off, but in growing my relaxed hair, I learned a lot about growing hair in general and how we can do simple things to grow our hair. And now that I am natural, a lot of you guys are asking like, okay, so what's the new plan? How are you gonna grow your hair? Will your methods change? And whether or not the things that I have preached about that applied to my relaxed hair can truly be applied to natural hair in all types. What are the differences, if there are any differences, and how should you approach hair growth? Now, I did cut my hair partly because I do want to experience short hair. I don't think personally I will be as obsessed with hair growth, but I still think that these types of videos are important because I think the value that we place on having long hair, especially for me, was the fact that it was so hard to get. I feel like if it was very easy for all Black women to just grow their hair really long, half of us wouldn't really want long hair. Like, short hair is actually really nice and can be convenient, but I feel like making these types of videos and making it more possible for more Black women to be able to grow their hair long and have the option of being able to grow their hair long and not have it just break all off when they're not expecting it. Once we have that option, I feel like it loses some of its value, and hopefully, because I know for me, I didn't really appreciate short hair until I had long hair, and I was like, okay, well, I've had long hair now, let me try short hair. That's why I still feel really passionate about making these videos, and I will still continue to make these sorts of videos even if I personally might cut off all my hair again tomorrow, you know? Like, so yeah, that's just a little thing that I wanted to mention. So I've been doing too much talking. How do I actually grow my hair? What do I believe is the best way to grow any hair type? Well, one thing that I always say is, in order to find the solution to anything in life, you need to know what the problem actually is so that you can go about it in the right way. So the problem with growing our hair is breakage. For the vast majority of us, our hair is growing. The problem is that our hair breaks faster than it grows. So we aren't able to retain length. So it looks like our hair isn't growing. With relaxed hair, the problem with breakage comes from the fact that we are applying a harsher chemicals to our hair, which weakens our hair, which means that anything that we do to it from then on out will make it break more easily than hair that hasn't been chemically treated. With natural hair, you're oftentimes dealing with breakage because you are doing more manipulation to your hair. And this is something that's fully in your control, but oftentimes to put it in different styles, depending on the styles that you are doing, you're putting a lot more manipulation on curlier hair to get it into those styles and to just maintain your hair in general. And a lot of people don't know that manipulation is actually a form of damage. So the hair that's on your head right now, even if you have never experienced any chemical damage or any type of other damage like that, simply you being rough on your hair in the past, right now your hair is going to be weaker just because of that. That's over time caused wear on your hair. And number two, whenever you are manipulating hair that is in a curled state, there are extra stresses and strains that go into the whole manipulation process that over time put more wear on your hair, as opposed to hair that is straighter that doesn't have to go through that torsional strain every time that you are messing with your hair. If you want to read more about these things, I'll link all the studies below, but that is the main gist of why natural hair still experiences breakage that can be equal or even greater to the amount of breakage that you would see in hair that has been chemically altered to be straight. So whether you're natural or relaxed, breakage is the enemy. Breakage that is largely caused by manipulation, keeping us from being able to retain our length. So the best way to prevent our hair from breakage, now this is something that just blew my mind when I first realized it, but the best way to prevent breakage is to just not touch your hair. There's no way for your hair to break if you don't touch it. Rewind that and listen to that again to let it sink in. But there's literally no way for your hair to break if you simply don't touch it. So then you may be asking, okay, how do I not touch my hair? It's like on my head, like, how do I do that? But the easiest way to not touch your hair and not give it the opportunity to break for an extended period of time is through protective styling. Protective styling has literally changed my life and has changed a lot of you guys' life, whether or not you are relaxed or natural. From the DMs and comments that I get from you guys, it is something that can literally be applied to every single hair type and every single person because it solves the same problem that we are all facing, the problem of breakage for all of us. But protective styling is such a tricky thing because it's very easy to go wrong with protective styling. And as I'm explaining this, I'm gonna go through the differences between how you should approach it if you are relaxed or if you're natural, because there are some important differences. I already have a video out on protective styling, but this video is important to clarify some of the distinctions that will be important in how you approach protective styling depending on your hair type. Protective styling, the reason and the why behind protective styling, the whole point of protective styling is to put less manipulation on your hair, to not do as much of it. So that will go into the first point. You want to make sure that you're leaving your protective styles in for like a good amount of time before you take them out, to where your hair is actually able to get a long enough break. Because if you're putting in a protective style, putting all that manipulation on your hair, to only leave it in for 2 or 3 weeks and then take it down and put more manipulation on your hair, it could be argued that you're putting more manipulation on your hair to put it in and take it down of those protective styles so frequently, especially if you're doing more intricate types of protective styles. Because every time you put in and take down a protective style, you're putting manipulation on your hair. So me personally, the longer I can keep my protective style in, the better. I like to leave my protective styles in for 2 to 3 months max. Some people can go even longer than that. Some people find 2 to 3 months to be too long for them. So just see with your own hair. Don't do it for too long if your hair doesn't like it. But for me, it's important that I leave my hair alone for long enough for it to actually see the benefits of being left alone. Number 2 is understanding that everyone's hair and everyone's hair type is different. Even though putting less manipulation and not doing as much to your hair is beneficial for everyone, the way you approach your protective styling and the types of styles you do can be different for everyone. The 2 most important things to watch out for is how heavy is the protective style. Someone with thinner, finer hair may not be able to take the weight of really long box braids, whereas someone with maybe coarser hair, super heavy box braids don't damage their hair at all. So make sure that you are watching out for those types of things. If you know that you have really fine hair, try and avoid really heavy styles that can be causing more breakage for you. We're trying to avoid breakage with the whole protective styling thing. We don't want to be doing stuff that will cause more breakage than what we had before. So avoid that. And number 2, the manipulation required to put your hair in the protective style. Some people's hair literally just breaks from the manipulation required to put it in more intricate styles. There are literally people who their hair will break from literally just being put in cornrows. Like, that's too much manipulation for their hair. Their hair can't handle that much manipulation. So if you're someone that where your hair is just really fragile, it's not a bad thing. Like, you can embrace it. Just do different protective styles that don't require as manipulation. Do really big twists. If you want to still wear a wig, do flat twists instead of cornrows under your wig. There are ways to get around it, and you don't have to think that, oh, because I can't do this specific protective style, then all protective styles aren't good for me. No, the beauty of protective styling is that there's so many ways you can approach it. There are so many different types of protective styles. You can literally just braid your hair without adding any added hair. You can do cornrows, you can do twists, you can do crochet, you can do a wig on top of your cornrows. There's so many ways to approach protective styling, so use that to your advantage. You don't have to do the same protective styles that may work for other people, but just may not work for you. Other things to take into account is that you don't want to be braiding your hair too tight. There's a huge misconception that I hope my videos and other things can start to put an end to, but your hair you don't have to be in pain after you braid your hair. Like, that's not a normal thing. That shouldn't be a normal thing. It is literally possible for you to put your hair in a style that lasts a long time and still looks good without causing pain on your head. The idea that we have to go through pain for our protective styles to look good and to last long, if you get nothing out of the videos that I make constantly about protective styling, I hope you get that out, that you don't have to be in pain for your protective style to look good. Pain is a signal that something is wrong. Over time, you're literally pulling out your hair and causing irreversible hair loss, which is why we see all these people trying to find ways to grow back their edges because they lost all of their edges from trying to do protective styles and all of that. If someone's braiding your hair too tight, tell them, be willing to take it out, learn how to do your hair yourself, or just go to the people who are more conscious about the health of your hair and don't braid too tight. Another thing with protective styling is remembering again the why. The whole point of it is to put less manipulation on our hair. So if we're doing a style that puts manipulation on the same areas of our hair, so if I always did this style, over time, this part of my hair would thin because I would be constantly putting manipulation on this part of my hair. If I only wore wigs for the rest of my life, that rubbed against my hairline. Over time, that rubbing against my hairline is going to cause my hairline to thin. Things like that. You want to switch up your hairstyles because it's kind of impossible to completely avoid manipulation onto our hair. But what we can avoid is constantly putting the same manipulation onto the same areas, which will then cause noticeable differences in those areas where we'll start to see thinning and breakage in the same spots, which we don't want. So switch it up and change up your hairstyles or how you part your hair for your hairstyles. Just try not to put the same manipulation in the same areas back to back to back to back to back. And the last thing, I shouldn't have saved this for last because it's one of the most important things that I was stressed, but you want to make sure that whenever you're taking down your protective style, take your time. Whenever you're taking down your hair from like braids or whatever protective style is in, that's the opportunity for you to see breakage. And the thing that honestly differentiates a lot of people who do protective styles from others, simply the people who are careful enough to not allow their hair to break whenever they're taking it down. You will still see shed hair because our hair naturally sheds a lot of strands a day, so you'll see longer strands. But if you're seeing short pieces of breakage, a lot of times that is something that you were causing by being too rough to your hair. And I have videos on how to take down your hair from protective style. Okay, so I quickly run through all the things that apply to literally everyone, whether you are natural, relaxed, 3C, 4C, high porosity, low porosity, pliant, thick strands, whatever. All of these things can apply to you, what I've just talked about. But now I want to talk about some of the key differences and how I, especially now that I am no longer relaxed, now that I have natural hair, how I will approach protective styling differently, and some of the things that will become more important to take note of now that I have natural hair. So the first thing that is a huge key difference between relaxed hair and natural hair. In the past, I would say with protective styling, the main important things to actually be able to see growth from your protective styles would be not being too rough on your hair when you're taking it down, and number two, not braiding your hair too tight. With natural hair, that changes. With natural hair, how you get your hair in a protective style. So this is something I've kind of talked about a little bit here and there, but I've never made it a main point. But I think with natural hair, it's probably the most important thing. And then how you take it down and how tight your hair is braided up are tied. But how are you putting your hair? What is the process that you're going through to put your hair in that protective style? The process required to put your hair in a protective style is much more involved than if your hair is straighter. For me with straight hair, I just put it in cornrows. The only manipulation involved was like the actual act of cornrowing. There was no like maybe blow drying my hair before, going through the snags and like putting work to get my hair from what it is to what I am trying to get it to be. But with natural hair, there's a lot more ways to mess up. So if you're doing your hair yourself, watch out for the process that you're using. Are you being really rough on it? If you're blow drying your hair to blow it out and get it straight, what is your process of blow drying? Is it something that is putting a lot of damage on your hair? We want to avoid going through the process of having to put a lot of damage on our hair first in order to get to the states where we can try and protect our hair. Like it goes against the whole thing that we're trying to do in the first place. Now, if you aren't going to blow out your hair, I personally think that so if you're gonna do a more intricate type of protective style, it's probably better to blow out your hair first, especially if you're going to someone else, and especially if you have really, really coiled hair that's a little bit coarser and tighter. Someone else may not want to go through the care of being gentle with your hair, even if you lightly detangled it beforehand. The actual process of going through your head and like getting something that is in a coiled big state to be into flat, neat cornrows, it's gonna cause a lot of manipulation, especially for someone who isn't willing. So one thing that I think is if a stylist said, you better come with your hair washed, prepped, and blow dried before you come to my salon to get it braided up, thank them. Thank them for not allowing you to give them the opportunity to mess your hair in that process. Thank them for allowing you to do the hard work and the work that could cause a lot of damage to your hair and not allowing it to be in an easily manipulated state before it's braided. Learn how to effectively wash, condition, stretch your hair without putting that much manipulation on your hair in the first place. This is a series that I am excited to get into as well. I'll be showing ways that I effectively stretch out my hair. So that is something that is really, really important. In that process of getting your hair into that style, they could be doing extreme damage that you aren't even taking into account. Or you could be the one doing extreme damage to your hair to get into that state that you aren't even taking into account as well. Manipulation and being rough on your hair is a form of damage. And the whole point of protective styling is to avoid this manipulation. Number two key thing that is different from relaxed hair when it comes to protective styling or leaving your hair alone essentially is the fact that with natural hairstyles, a lot of them in and of themselves are low manipulation. If your hair is able to stay in a style that's left out without you doing stuff to it every day and it doesn't experience a lot of tangling in that style and you're able to carry that style for a somewhat prolonged period of time, a week, 2 weeks, however long you can go, that is a way of you leaving your hair alone and not doing stuff to it. Unlike relaxed hair, if I was gonna wear my relaxed hair out, I have to comb it every day. I have to put some type of manipulation on it to wear it out. You can't really just put it in like some gel and like leave it alone until the next time you wash it. So use that to your advantage with natural hair, if your hair is able to do that. I know some people, they can't. If you're someone that like you like to twist your hair up at night to prevent it from tangling and things like that, that's different. That wouldn't be considered low manipulation because you're still doing stuff to it. But if your hair is able to stay in a style that's left out and you can actually wear your hair without doing anything to it and without it causing any harm to your hair, that is a way of you leaving your hair alone, especially if the manipulation of putting your hair in certain styles causes breakage for you if you have more fragile hair. And that's really where you can experiment. That's where it'll be different for everyone, but just see for yourself what styles and what ways of styling my hair am I actually, at the end of the day, putting less manipulation on my hair, and use that to judge which styles you actually do. But I hope this really helped you. In terms of how I take care of my protective style, I really don't do much. You can wash it if you need to. Sometimes I don't have to wash it. Sometimes I do. It's just however I'm feeling. I don't really work out or sweat that much, so I don't really have to wash it that often. But you can wash your hair and protective style. In terms of moisturizing, I don't really do that often. You can if you want to, but I personally don't do that often. I haven't found it to negatively affect my hair. In terms of like oiling your scalp and all of that stuff, if you didn't oil your scalp outside of your protective style, it can cause a lot of itching and flaking if your scalp isn't used to that stuff. You can try hair growth oils to like stimulate your hair growth and all of that stuff. Just make sure that your hair doesn't react to it. I love, if I don't do anything to the bulk of my hair, I'll at least apply some type of growth oil towards my edges area, just to keep that area like nice and like flourishing. But for the most part, I keep it very simple. I really don't do much to my hair, but whenever I'm taking it down, the whole point of like putting leave-in and conditioner in your hair so that whenever you do manipulate it, you won't be seeing breakage. So whenever it's time to manipulate my hair and take it down, at that point, I need to make sure that my hair isn't like dry and crusty and brittle and won't like break off then and there. So I make sure to take down my hair with a ton of moisturizer, a ton of leave-in to add slip and take it down without breakage. And I might put in some oil onto my braids or something that can soften it up like a day or two before I take it down, so I'll also help that process. I have a video that goes into more depth, but that's the gist of it. I really don't do much. 4C, 3C, relaxed, natural, high porosity, low porosity, whatever you want to define yourself as, protective styling will always be, in my opinion, the best and most effective, easiest, fastest way to retain length. For a lot of us who struggle a lot with not being able to grow our hair, we see a lot of benefit from the most foolproof way of growing our hair, which is just leaving it alone. I was never lucky enough to be able to grow my hair while manipulating it and not doing something like protective styling, but now maybe that'll change now that I am natural. Even though that still will always remain the easiest and fastest way for me to grow my hair, and I will always turn to it if I'm trying to grow my hair really fast, I'm going to also explore more ways to grow my hair while just leaving it out. Even though they can take longer, they can still be effective ways to retain length. And I look forward to take you guys along that journey with me as well. But I hope this really helped you. I hope this gives clarity. I hope this teaches you something. And let me know if you try this stuff. I love getting your DMs so much and like seeing the progress of how much your hair is growing from these tips. And like, cause when I realized these things, like I said, I realized them on accident myself. You can watch other videos to learn my story. It changed my life. So that's why I feel so passionate about like making these videos, and now that I'm natural, clarifying how my approach will change. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, found it helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.